Amen. In this morning's devotion, we looked at the book by A.T. Jones called Christian Patriotism. And in our class, we read the introductory chapter, which talks about the separation. He says religion, but we'll use the phrase or the word church and state, the separation of church and state. And he says that's one of the major or overarching themes of inspiration. When we read, we therefore should be reading with that perspective in mind. Whether we consider it a devotional study or a prophetic study. In fact, the more we realize how we should study, we see that, in fact, there should be no distinction between the two. In the sense that most people's perspective of a devotional life or a devotional study is different to a prophetic one. The question was asked in the last class, what does the United States government look like? How is it constructed? We see it's a government that's based upon three independent branches. The executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. We discussed about the three and how they implement laws. Then the question was asked, if you go back to the history of the Millerites up to 1863, Ellen White's pretty clear that the Lord was meant to return long before 1888. And in the movement we're currently making a statement, and we haven't discussed the logic or the reasoning behind this, that there's strong evidence that if things had gone according to God's plan, that he would have returned back in 1863. If that was the case, would there have been a Sunday law in that history? And I'm not sure how you view it, but I'm going to say it this way. There seems to be compelling evidence to indicate that there was not going to be a Sunday law in that history. And that becomes important for us as we consider our own history. It wasn't the closing remark, but it was very close to the end. And then if you remember, Brother Stephen asked the question. In fact, would you remember what question he asked at the very end of his thoughts? Or just the gist of what he said? Microphone? It's just behind you. Is it on? No. Pass it.
I think he asked, how do we interpret Ellen White's statement about that Christ could have come? Is that the one?
No.
In that history? No.
Not how he could have come, but how do we read?
How do we read that statement?
How do we then read Spirit of Prophecy
Yeah.
with relation to much of what she says, if we're going to take those kind of positions? So he may have said it in a specific context, but I want us to think, how do we go about reading inspiration now? It's not my purpose to go into an in-depth conversation on this subject, but I think increasingly as we walk through our own history, not only will we, but we already have been challenged as to how we read. Perhaps one of the most controversial subjects that's come up recently is subject of time. And just prior to that, the subject of the nature of man So we're dealing with controversial subjects, especially on the issue of time, that seem to go against plain Ellen White quotes. So how do you deal with that, Brother Stephen, personally? Move it right to you. Then you get some assistance. Thank you.
There is many passages in Scripture that can seem to contradict things. We even discussed one last night where concerning Ezekiel, where we sort of understood that we are to let our light shine before men, and that is something that Ezekiel maybe didn't. He says he showed everything, but there was maybe aspects of hiding the light of some things about God and the Bible or whatever. But then it also says that we are not to cast pearls, to swine, and so in a sense, it's like refuse to give things which are holy to people as well. So there seems to be like a contradiction almost in some things, and I think Ellen White's statements there's certain things as well that we can. There could be sort of similar aspects that I don't have any in mind at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But concerning that statement about time, we have to understand the context of what she's writing about and the experience. There's a lot of events where she's sort of talking about not predicting time, but it's because a lot of people are trying to make the 2,300 days go beyond the 1844. So there's some comments in that there. We have to look at the context of the history where she's making them statements.
Okay, so there's two things you brought up. Context, sort of in a generic sense, and then you said context in that history. So you've got a context and you've got a historical context. So if we were to talk about historical context, what word would you use, Brother Adelio, for historical context?
Synonym for historical context?
Yeah. One that we use often in the movement. Not Millerite. Brother Carl, the mic's right here. Brother Carl, do you have an idea? Literal? Brother Rayan? Brother, Sister Emma? I'm thinking dispensation. Yeah? So, if I understood what Brother Stephen was saying, he says we need to understand things dispensationally or historical context. Had you finished your point?
Yes, she uses the term a gathering time and a scattering time, and so you could see them as dispensations.
Sister Lizanne, are you focused or no? Okay. So we're seeing that in Ellen White's, in the history of the Millerites, in that dispensation, that the Sunday law is not really being discussed, but the second advent is being discussed. And therefore, we have to take things in their dispensational or historical context. So when we start talking about Babylon, what does it mean to be part of Babylon, Brother Richard? in that history. Could you just pass the mic to him, please?
In that history, it's been a biblical teaching.
Which biblical teaching?
Because in Acts, there is a quote that says the two great errors are Sunday and the immortality of the soul, but they was all keeping Sunday there, so it wouldn't have included that.
Okay.
But you've mentioned earlier that it was included, that their test was time.
Okay.
And they was all being mocked. No man knows the day or the hour. The date came out on the line.
What's the question that I just asked you?
What would constitute them being Babylon?
And the answer is?
I don't know.
You're not sure? Brother Jean-Marc. What makes you Babylon? If you reject the first angel's message, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
That's what's going to define you as being part of Babylon. We know that. We know that. Sister Natalie, you said what? Take the mic. Okay, so we've got a tying. Is that not on or what? Okay, so you're arguing that there's a relationship between the first and second angel's message. So Brother John Mark says what constitutes you being part of Babylon is that you've rejected the first angel's message. That's what you said?
Yeah.
So it's the first angel's message that's the problem. And this is Natalie, you said?
It was just a second comment that you can't benefit them from the second angel if you reject the first.
So you can't be benefited by the work of the second angel if you have not been benefited or accepted the first angel. So are we all okay with that? Okay, let me ask you a question then. Okay, Brother Richard, you spoke about Babylon and you said how many sins they're doing?
I never said anything about sins. I said
You didn't use the word sin. No, you used another word, but
I said false teachings.
how many?
Well, it would have been a lot.
No, you didn't say that.
Pardon?
You didn't say a lot.
I don't know how many they had.
You said how many?
Well, they didn't know about the sanctuary, but even the Millerites.
How many did you say? That's what I'm asking.
I never.
You gave a
I
number.
just said false teaching. Did I say a number? 2 originally.
You did say it.
Yeah.
Remember?
Okay. Yeah. I
2.
remember you saying, yes.
So,
Sunday sacredness and the immortality of the soul.
so you said that's what constitutes.
Babylon, but you said in their time, and they never kept Sunday, so it can't. That's for our time, or from when the Sabbath became apparent again.
So no, I'm not trying to argue against what you said. I'm just clarifying. You said there were 2 things:
But they never kept.
Sunday sacredness and the state of the dead.
Yes.
Just clarifying.
Okay.
That's what you said.
I did mention the state of the dead, but I wasn't putting that
That's
to
fine.
the Sunday sacredness. Well,
But you said
the
that there
immortality
was
of the soul. Yeah, it is the state of the dead.
State of the dead. You said
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the sins that constitute Babylon. Those 2 major doctrines.
Yes.
Is that right?
Probably not. Not with you.
Not with me. So, what did Sister Lizanne say? The test was.
I don't. Pardon? I don't recall what she
You
said.
don't recall? Brother John Mark, what did Sister Lizanne say? Do you remember?
I forgot.
You forgot? That's fine. Brother Carl, do you remember? Pass the mic to Brother Carl.
She said time was the
He
test.
said time. What's time got to do with any of this, Brother Carl? Where did she slip time into this?
Well,
Because Brother John Mark is saying, what did John Mark say? What makes you Babylon?
Jean-Marc?
Yeah. What makes you Babylon?
I don't know. I don't remember what Jean-Marc said.
Okay, shout out what makes you Babylon?
Oh yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So,
that's what he said.
so tell me what's that got to do with time?
So the first angel's message came in 1798, and in 1798 a portion of Daniel was unsealed, or yes, a portion of Daniel was unsealed.
Which portion?
The portion to do with time.
Chapter.
Daniel 8.
So Daniel 8, carry
Yes.
on.
That was unsealed in 1798.
So
And
you
this
already
is
said the
what
answer. Which part of Daniel 8 was unsealed?
Daniel 8.
Which part of Daniel 8?
Daniel
already-
8:14.
You already gave the answer, not the verse.
Time.
Say that all again for us.
So the portion of Daniel 8 to do with time was unsealed in 1798.
Okay? And Daniel 8, the portion of time, is what subject or what topic or what message?
The sanctuary? Time? Oh. First angel's
The
message.
first angel's message, my sister. Pass the microphone to her, please.
2,300 days?
Exactly correct, 8:14. However, what we want to try and understand is more of the concept as opposed to the literal words. Literal words is 2,300 days. We agree with that. We just want to try in some concepts. And there's three concepts we want to tie together. 2,300 days, Daniel 8:14. What did Brother John Mark say?
That it was unsealed.
From the book of
Time.
Revelation 14.
Oh, yeah. Okay, second angel's message. No? Go back, first angel's message.
First angel's message, good.
Yeah.
So we've got Daniel 8,
Yes.
or the 2,300 days. Then we've got the first angel. And what did Sister Lizanne say?
Can't remember, sorry.
Can't remember? Time.
Time.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She said time. Okay. What did she mean about time? What was she saying about time? Connected to Daniel 8.
That there was a beginning and an end of time.
Good.
Yeah.
And the beginning is when?
5:37.
4:57.
Oh, sorry.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So 4:57.
Yes.
So the 2,300 days is going to be understood now. And what word do we use instead of understood?
Revealed. Unsealed.
Unsealed. So the 2,300 days is going to be unsealed.
Mm-hmm.
Is the sanctuary unsealed? The sanctuary subject or message?
I'm not sure.
No, it's not. Because of why? My sister? You said no. Just shout out because the mic doesn't work anyway. Shout out really loud.
What I was thinking was that because it was 1844, after that they discovered that the time was right, but the event was wrong.
Okay?
Yes.
So when
After that they realized the sanctuary.
good. And we say event, but I like to change it to the concept of geography, so that we think about geographical models. The geography was wrong. The geography should have been in heaven, in heaven, not on earth, and so they misunderstand where the sanctuary is. So it's the message on time that is unsealed, not the message on the sanctuary, and both are in Daniel chapter 8. One portion is unsealed and the other isn't. So they get into a mess. So we've tied up three concepts. First angel's message, Daniel 8, the 2,300 days, and the subject of time. So when we tie all of those things together, if you fail that message, What does God say has happened to you?
Come part of Babylon.
Yeah, you've gone back to Babylon. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me where that's found. What chapter? What book? What verse?
Yeah, but you haven't.
Tell me the book, chapter, and verse first.
But it says, "Come out of her, my children." So that's the only reference I can get in my head.
Give us that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that is. I'm sorry.
Do you know which book?
Revelation?
Good. You don't know what chapter?
No.
Okay. So we want to go to Sister Debbie. Where do we want to go? To talk about if you fail the test, something's going to happen to you.
Oh,
What's the test that you failed? Time?
Yeah.
Another way to express it? First angel's message? Another way to express it?
Rejection of the message, I suppose.
Sorry? Can't hear you? Put the mic right up to your mouth,
Sorry,
please.
rejection of the message, I was going to say.
Yeah, but where's that message? We've got the issue of time, we've got the issue of the first angel, and there was one more.
Time, the angel, 2300 days.
2300 days, good. So when you reject the message, something's going to happen to you. Where would we look to see that what's going to happen to you if you reject the message?
Revelation.
And the message is the first angel's message.
Oh, right, okay.
Keep the mic up, please.
Sorry. I don't
You're in Revelation, you're in which chapter?
know. Yeah, I was looking at Revelation 18, but I don't know.
Not Revelation 18.
Oh, 14.
Good.
The first thing, yeah.
So you've rejected the first angel's message, what's going to happen? Please.
Mark in their forehead.
Sorry, where are we?
Sorry, mark in their forehead.
I can't hear you.
Say that again, sorry.
We're in Revelation 14, you failed the first angel's message. Where does it bring it to you? Where does it bring you to?
The hour of his judgment. Judgment.
If you failed the first message,
Yeah.
what happens? First angel's message is verse 6 and verse 7.
Yeah.
If you failed them, what happens to you?
Judgment. I was going to say judgment.
Verse.
Oh, 7.
7 is the first angels. You failed that message, what happens to you?
Oh,
Verse
we're looking at verse 8, but I don't know.
verse 8, good. Verse 8, that's what happens to you. What does that say?
That Babylon is fallen.
Babylon is fallen. So, explain what that means, someone. Brother Ryan, explain that in the context of our discussion. Just pass the mic over. Reverend Rayon. Pass the parcel. Crazy.
So what have we said so far? We've said that the first angel message is a message that contains time. We're dealing with the Millerite history, and we're saying that once they failed, now verse 8 is applicable, which tells us that Babylon is fallen. I guess when we get to that point, which was April the 19th, 1844,
Just a bit higher.
by then you start to see doors being closed on those who are preaching the right message, if you will, and a separation starts to begin
Between whom and whom?
between who and whom.
You said there's a separation.
So say they were all Protestants, weren't they?
Okay?
But those who were carrying forward the message that was found on the 1843 chart, when they continued, those who they rejected, those who
You can put the mic to.
okay, those who were okay, that's better. My point being, those who were proclaiming the message on the 1843 chart, they would have, in my understanding, would have been one group of people. But you have another class that rejected what was taking place. There was a disappointment in April the 19th.
We don't need the details. We just want to know the two groups.
The Millerites
And?
the Protestants.
Okay, so explain Revelation 14 verse 8 in that context. When it says Babylon is fallen.
So the Protestants that rejected the first angel's message, they fell away from the movement.
And?
Became a part of Babylon.
Okay, so we're all okay with that. So the Protestants become part of Babylon. Who were the Protestants before?
Not sure.
I'll give you a choice. Babylon or not Babylon?
That's what I'm not sure about.
You just said they became Babylon.
Yeah. So I guess at that point then, the option of being Babylon is now there.
So what were they before?
They couldn't have been Babylon if they then become Babylon.
Everyone okay with that? Is that a question or a statement? Pick one. Can't deal with both. Yeah. If it's a statement, that's fine. If it's a question, then you can ask a question.
So were they God's people?
Were they God's people?
I would say so.
So they're God's people and they fail a test.
Mm-hmm.
What test did they fail?
The first angel's message.
Failed the first angel's message, and therefore they
Become a part of Babylon.
become a part of Babylon. Everybody okay with that sequence? Yep. Okay. Brother Adelio? They're part of God's people? Or they're God's people?
Protestants?
Yep. It's a question. You agree?
Back then or right now?
Then, we're in Millerites history.
Yeah.
Give us a proof for that.
That they are God's people.
Yeah.
They were God's people. That the Protestants were God's people.
It can be a verse or a story or a concept or anything. Give us some kind of something to hold on to so that we can say, oh yeah, we get it. So simple logic even. Because Brother Rayan wasn't even sure until now whether or not what they were before. Because initially he said no, they were Babylon. Then he realizes that they can't be Babylon because you can't enter into Babylon if you were Babylon before. So he sees the logic of it. Just give us some.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the seven churches.
Okay, we're in 7 churches, Revelation 2 and 3.
Where the Protestants came into existence. So that kind of shows that they were called to.
Okay, so now we're talking about the Protestants coming into existence. You need to tell us which church you're talking about. Because you're going with 7 of us. 7 of them.
After Thyatira, you have Sardis.
Is that where we are?
If you talk about the Protestants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in Sardis. Sardis is where, Sister Emma? Give us the book, then the chapter. No, he said Sardis. Revelation, you're not looking? Okay, we're in Revelation 3. Sister Carolee? Oh, okay, that's a good. Revelation 3. Okay, so we're in Revelation 3, and this is Sardis. So, this is not a definitive proof, but the logic that we would use to show that the Protestant churches are not Babylon is by demonstrating that they are one of the 7 churches. And the church that Brother Adelio has gone to is Sardis. So, just while we're on that point, how many churches are there? Brother Stephen, how many churches are there? 7? Okay, so one church. 7 historical contexts or dispensations, yeah? There's only one church. So that's how we use dispensational theology or historical context. I think it has to be understood contextually or dispensationally. Without doing that, you can get into problems. So there's only one church, and it goes through those 7 dispensations, and some people said 8 because we're going to take some spiritual application and see how that works, which I guess is a little bit more complex. But just so that we know, Protestants are Sardis because we're looking at a certain dispensation. Carry on.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's it? Okay, that's fine. Brother Jean-Marc.
At the time, they also had a great light concerning Revelation, in connecting with the papacy, like the 4 beasts of Daniel. Also, they knew about that, but nowadays they don't know anything. They knew about Revelation 12.
Okay.
And so concepts like we have with Michael the Archangel, they don't know anything about it, but in the past they used to believe that.
Good. Just the microphone over here. So let's summarize. We're in the Millerite history, and they're going to reject the 2300 days, first angel's message, the subject of time. When you reject that, which is all the first angel's message, then you get to a place where an accusation is made against you, or a pronouncement that you've come into Babylon. The wording says Babylon is fallen. You're falling into Babylon. It's the second angel's message. We know that the people it's targeting were not part of Babylon before. It was Protestant America. And Protestant America is Sardis. Revelation chapter 3, people said. Yeah? And we haven't gone into the study to demonstrate or prove that. We could use lines of evidence to show that, but at a simple level, that's what we're saying. This is the Church of God in a certain dispensation, and they're going to come out of their walk with God and they're going to go into Babylon. Sister Debbie.
All I was going to say was
Yeah.
Microphone. Sorry. All I was going to say was that that dispensation is between 1798 to 1844, and Sardis means remnant.
Okay, Sardis means a number of things. If you check Strong's, it doesn't give remnant, I don't think, as the primary definition. What's the definition of Sardis?
Yeah, those that escape.
Is that the primary definition in Strong's? Over here they're saying it's red. Have a look. We can use different... Strong's is not the definitive answer. We can use Smith or Hitchcock or someone else. It's what?
The red one.
It's red. It's not those who escape. The primary definition, if we're going to go for Strong's definition, if we're going to use that, would be people who are red. And why is that important compared to the definition that you gave, which is the remnant or those who escape? No, my question is, why is it important? Can't say,
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I don't know how to answer that one.
Microphone closer.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that
Okay,
one,
which
sorry.
verse are we in, Sister Emma?
Yeah.
We're in Revelation 3, verse 1 to 6. Okay, so in verse 1, and I'll read it to you, and you tell me why red is important. And unto the angel of the church of Sardis write, by the way, the angel of the church, who is that? Who is the angel of the church? The leadership. Someone said something? It's the leadership of the church. Okay, that becomes important to understand in other studies. These things saith he that hath the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know thy works, that thou hast a name, that thou livest and art dead. So why is the definition of red important, Sister Debbie? If you don't see it, just tell us that's fine. Just want to see if you can see it. Sister Cedri?
I'm just taking a guess here.
Okay, if you're taking a guess, tell us the phrase that you're guessing.
And that thou hast a name, that thou livest and art dead.
Okay, why are you taking a guess at that part of the verse? Tell us, what's Miller's rule number 1, Brother Carl? Rule 1. You can't look. Paraphrase, it's fine.
Every word has its proper meaning.
Okay, tell me what that means.
It means when we read a verse of scripture.
Bearing. Change the word bearing. I don't know what bearing means.
Yeah, position, place.
What does place mean if you're in a place? Which place did you get to in the competition? In the Olympics, you got a choice of how many? 3. So place means rank. Okay? So every word has its proper rank or ranking. Instead of ranking, we could use another word. Out of those 3,
the first one?
The first one.
Yeah.
He'd be or she would be the
key word.
The best.
The best.
The important.
Yes.
Okay? So every word has its importance.
Yes.
Okay? Sister Cedri, you went to the last part of the verse, you said, I'm going to guess. Tell me which word you've picked up from that, which is the important word. This is rule 1. Which is the important word? Give me one word that's important that you've gone to that to understand why Sardis, we're going to go with the definition of red and not the remnant or the people who escape. Because that's not Strong's definition. You have to go, I think, to Smith. Is it Smith, I think, that gives that one, or Hitchcock, one of the two? Smith.
Thayers.
Oh, Thayers as well. Okay. Which? Dead. Anyone else? I wouldn't have gone for dead. Just shout out an answer. Why name? Because we're discussing the name. We want to know what the name Sardis means. So you go to the verse and it says you've got a name. So their name is what's important. So it says your name means what, Sister Cedri? What does your name mean? No, doesn't say that. In the verse, can you just take the microphone?
Livest.
Your name means live. So the name means live. Mm-hmm. The behavior is
not
is
dead.
Dead. Your name means alive or live, and your behavior means dead. Okay? So now we can see why Sardis means, what does Sardis mean?
Red.
Red. Now explain.
I'm red meaning, I think, pertaining to blood.
Carry on.
And because blood gives you life.
Good. So the life is in the blood.
Yeah.
So the redder you are, the
more
livelier
lively.
you are.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't call it the redder you are, we call it what? Let's see if you have fair skin. Ruddy.
Ruddy.
He was all ruddy. So ruddy means red, red-faced, which means you're alive, which means you have vitality. So we can see that. Everybody agree with that? So this is Sardis, and Sardis is going to be taken out of that, separated from God, and they're going to go into Babylon. Everyone agree with that? You okay with that? Sister Lizanne, you okay with that? Okay. I know you're halfway, but just a half bit. Yeah? Good. Any questions? Shout. If it's a short one, if it's a long one, we'll pass the mic. Prince of Joy. Good. Hitchcock says it means Prince of Joy. So these people are going to go into Babylon. That's bad, isn't it? Let's go to a literal story. Why did you go into Babylon for? Disobedience, rebellion. Can we call that sin? So you do sin and you go into Babylon. What sin are they committing?
Wrong doctrine? Or rejecting right doctrine?
Yeah? Sorry? In the story that we're in. That was to find out why you go into Babylon. You go into Babylon, and I've said sin. So I'm saying, so in this story, you go into Babylon because of
doctrine.
Which one? First angel's message. So the sin is the rejection of the first angel's message. Okay? So the first angel's message is what? A message about time. So if you reject that message, why would you go into Babylon for? It's a bit severe, isn't it? Let me reframe the thought or the question. You've got two choices. Who are you going to listen to? We say God, or we'll go with Satan to keep it equivalent. God or Satan. We'll go to cities now. Jerusalem or Babylon. They're your two choices. So Jerusalem was saying, you're going to be tested on time. And so Babylon says, there is no time. You okay with that, Brother Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah? How many doctrines does Babylon have?
How many? I don't know.
You said two before.
It says
Two.
great errors.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
they've got
Two
many
great
others.
errors, two great sins.
Yeah, but they've
Okay.
got other things.
Two. The great ones we're looking at.
Yeah.
Not the minor ones, the great ones. So if you reject time, time is not Sunday, and time is not state of the dead or immortality of the soul. So why do you go into Babylon for? Why is it such a severe punishment to go into Babylon if you're not breaking any of their two rules? Because we've demonstrated that the Sunday keeper, hopefully we're all agreeing with that. I'm not sure if you still agree or if you agree yet, Brother Adelio, that I'm a Sunday keeper, you're a Sabbath keeper, and you went into Babylon and I didn't. If you're okay with that. Yeah? So we're okay with that now. If he was okay, everyone's okay now. I keep Sunday, you keep Sabbath, and I'm saying you've gone into Babylon and I haven't. Because Sunday worship is not the test. What's the test? Time. If you fail the test of time, where do you go?
Babylon.
How can you go into Babylon if you fail the test of time? Okay, it's the present truth message for that time, because Jerusalem says time and Babylon says no time. So if you say no time, whose side are you going on? You're going on to Babylon's side. So how many years after that history? 200 years coming up to? I don't know.
180.
Okay? So we're about 180 years, plus or minus. And we have now forgotten what the great errors of Babylon are as a church. So what are the great errors of Babylon? And you don't need any Spirit of Prophecy quotes to prove this. Just from what we've said, the great sins of Babylon. So we'll go with the obvious one. Sunday. That's the obvious one. State of the dead, that's the other one. And what's the third one?
First time. First angel's message.
No, we did that. Not just rejecting prophecy, we want to be specific. Okay, so it's the millennium, but we haven't used millennium yet, so I didn't want to introduce a new concept. So we're rejecting time. Okay, so they're the three major errors of Catholicism or Babylon. There are not two, there are three. There's time, there's the state of the dead, and then there's Sunday sacredness. And Adventists don't know this third one, the subject of time. And as I say, we're going to read a Spirit of Prophecy quote to show that. But I wanted to see you don't need the Spirit of Prophecy. It tells you in the history and in the verses. Can everybody see that? Okay? So Brother Carl, this microphone just behind you. Show us why we have proven, or you could show why time is the third major doctrine of Babylon without a Spirit of Prophecy quote to show us.
Well, because as we've seen, the first angel's message, or the rejection of the first angel's message, resulted in a church being termed Babylon, or falling into Babylon. And from the history of 1798, when we saw that the first angel's message was unsealed, which was time, this message being rejected by the churches meant them being Babylon.
Everybody okay with that understanding? Can you repeat it, Sister Cedri, for us? There's a microphone just behind you. The microphone's just there. I think he's repaired it. Fix this.
I missed it because I was actually just reading from 3 to 6. 3, Revelation 3, 1 to 6.
So you do it for us then.
Okay. It says, if therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee.
So what are you reading?
Revelation 3:3.
Okay.
And so isn't it saying that if you don't know the time, it will be a surprise?
Can you use the logic that we've used? I want you to run through a story through the logic, not just to give a verse.
Mm. And what was their logic again?
Can't remember?
No.
Sister Debbie, can you remember? Sister Ula, you can remember. You haven't got a clue. Sister Emma.
That they are tested on time under the first angel's message. And when
Why? Why's first angel's message got anything to do with time?
Because it's the 2,300 days from Daniel 8 that is unsealed to them in 1798. It's a message relating to time, which we said was 2,300 days, or the first angel's message. And when they reject that, we can see from Revelation 14.
Just 1 second. My sister, you had your hand up?
Yes, it's the hours now. Yeah.
Revelation
14, 6 and 7.
verse
7.
Okay, I want you to try and remember it without looking next time.
Okay.
So Revelation 14:7 says what? Just not the whole verse. Which bit?
It says the hour of the judgment is now come.
The hour is not. How do you know the hour is now come? You must be able to calculate.
Time.
You have to be able to calculate time. So carry on.
So yeah, the first angel's message says the hour has come, and they connect that to the 2,300 days, and they recognize that the message of time, and then we get to verse 8, the second angel's message, and when they reject that message, they become Babylon. And so we know that what makes them Babylon is this question of time. So we know that there must be an error on time in Babylon.
Why? Okay, if you don't accept what I'm saying, why throw you into Babylon? Why not throw you into no man's land or into just apostasy? Why into Babylon?
Because Babylon is the one that's saying there's no time, and you've accepted that error. When you reject time, you're agreeing with Babylon in saying we cannot know the time, there is no time.
Everybody see that logic? To be thrown into Babylon means you must be accepting a Babylonian doctrine. It's not just apostasy or rebellion, it's worse than that. You've actually accepted what the enemy believes and teaches. I want us to see why you go into Babylon in that history. It's not just some random punishment. You didn't listen, so just leave and go into Babylon. It's because you said, I prefer Babylonian theology instead of God's or Jerusalem's theology.
You've rejected the word, you've rejected the words.
You rejected the words of the first angel.
Yes.
And whose words have you accepted, therefore?
Babylon. Yes.
Babylon's words. But you have to get it, you have to use the logic to see that, because he doesn't mention Babylon in any of those words. He didn't say, if you didn't believe it, that means you accepted Babylon's words. It doesn't say that in the verses, that's why we would miss it. But in order to fall into Babylon, you have to have a proper correlation. You can't just go into Babylon for any old reason. You go into Babylon because you accept their theology. Brother Thomas.
So my question is then, are you saying that Babylon is specifically a rejection of that truth? That's why you specifically go into Babylon and not just into any other thing?
Because Babylon says, we have a message which opposes that message.
So specific, okay.
And if you oppose that message, that means you must accept our message.
Okay. So by default, if you reject this message, automatically you'll be going into Babylon, not into anything else. It will be Babylon if you've rejected that message.
If you're going to use parable teaching and juxtapose, yes, as a concept, the word that we didn't introduce before in our study, the historical context word, was the millennium, which Brother Stephen was using. And so when you go back into the history and you can see what the arguments are about, there are Catholic arguments that are being used. So we can prove it just from the history, but I just want to take it from the concept. If you reject the first angel, you should say, okay, you're going to get a smack on your knuckles. But it's not that. You're going to get sent into Babylon for that. Why such a bad, hard punishment? It's not just a random punishment, say, oh, it's a big crime, big punishment. The biggest punishment you could get is kill them. So it says go into Babylon because it says you're listening to that kingdom's concepts and ideas.
So you can't fall into Babylon, you deliberately, willingly go into it because you deliberately, willingly rejected that light.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to think of the motivation behind it, whether it's deliberate or accidental. But yeah, you go in there because you accept what they believe.
But what I'm saying, I don't think it can be accidental. Because you said you don't...
I agree, it can't be, but that wasn't... You're extending the logic further, which is fine. I wasn't trying to say, was it deliberate or accidental? I just want us to see that it says you fall into Babylon because you've imbibed their theology and whether you're holding on to it or not, you've accepted it. And that's what makes you go into Babylon. So it's a Babylonian theology that you have accepted.
Just on that, I just challenge you. I wouldn't say the word fall. I'll say you go into, because fall is I fell into it.
I'm only using the word that's in the Bible. Yeah, so I agree. Sister Sonia. Sister Sonia.
Yeah, I have asked a question. One question, please. Can you repeat, please, three biggest errors of Babylonian theology?
Yes.
Please? And can you?
I'll write them and I'm going to read it as well. I'm going to give you a Spirit of Prophecy reference for this as well. I'm going to read them in a moment. The three. We'll do a Spirit of Prophecy quote for this. But the three are Sunday. When you die, you go to heaven or your soul remains eternal. And the third one is there is no time. Or the millennium.
Oh, yeah.
Or the secret rapture. It comes under different names. They're the three.
Yeah, thank you.
My sister?
Yeah.
Could it be that they were already there? We're talking about falling into Babylon.
Explain.
Did they already have that doctrine anyway?
Yes, they didn't invent it. It's already there. But it comes to a place where you sit your exam. Not you're doing practice papers.
Yeah.
You only fail. You did O-levels, I presume, when you were at school. You don't know you failed until what? Till you take the test. Beforehand you say, I know I'm going to fail, I didn't revise properly, I didn't work hard, but you don't know until you sit the test.
Yeah.
So you're holding on to the problems before, you're arguing, you could be all those things, but until the test comes, you can't make the pronouncement. When you rob someone, you're already a criminal, but you haven't been sentenced.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Brother John Mark.
So only with the three doctrines, then you will become Babylon. Not only with one, because the church doesn't accept time. And we're not going to say that the church is Babylon.
Okay, let's be careful about where we're headed. We're in Millerite history. Okay? They're keeping Sunday. Who's keeping Sunday? Who are the they that are keeping Sunday?
The Protestants.
No.
The Millerites.
The Millerites.
Yeah.
Millerites aren't going into Babylon.
Yeah.
Okay? So you can't say you're Babylon because you keep Sunday. Because I'm keeping Sunday. In fact, you're keeping Sabbath. This is the argument we had before. So it's not that one. And they're not tackling the state of the dead. It's time. So you don't have to imbibe all of them. The principle is this. There are 10 commandments. If you break one,
you break them all.
You're Babylon. You've got 3 commandments, 3 doctrines. You believe one, you're part of Babylon.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's only one. Okay, so you're okay with that with Millerite history?
Yeah.
Okay, now you made another point. Tell us your other point. Today,
the church doesn't accept time.
Okay, so let's stop there. Brother Stephen, I think there's a microphone somewhere here. When did the Protestants, this is a silly way, this is not grammatically correct, when did they not accept time? When were they rejecting the subject of time?
Their test ended on the 19th of April.
Okay, so you've told us that the test, they sit the test in 1844.
Yes.
But when were they rejecting time?
They were rejecting it up to that period.
Beforehand, for a long time. Brother John Mark, they're rejecting time long before 1844. You agree with that?
Yeah.
When did they become Babylon? Long before 1844 or in 1844?
Yeah, that's.
Shall I draw it on the board, what I'm asking?
No, I think in 1844.
Okay, so they only become Babylon in 1844 when they
Rejected the first angels.
when they sit
Oh, set the test.
when they sit the test. When the test comes, that's when the pronouncement is made, not before. Before, what are they doing? Rejecting.
Time.
They're rejecting time for how many years?
For
Will be harsh upon them. For 46 years they reject time. From the time of the end till April 1844, they're rejecting time all along that time. Are they Babylon?
No.
No. Why are they not Babylon when they're following Babylonian theology? What have they got? What's God afforded them? He's given them? He's given them time.
Yeah.
What kind of time has he given them that we call that? Everyone?
Probation time.
Probationary time. He's given them probationary time, and in that probationary time, what are they doing? Getting better or getting worse?
Worse.
Getting worse. We might say they're just the same, but we're going to say they're getting worse. So the issue of time is becoming more of an issue as you develop as you walk through that history. But in all that rebellion, they're still not identified as being Babylon. Yeah. Even though they're holding on to Babylonian ideas, comes a time where they fall into Babylon.
Yeah.
So you tell me what that means to you.
You mean today?
That's what you meant. That's what I'm asking you. What does that mean to you today now?
Well, that I think that then that means at the Sunday law.
At some point.
Because they still have time to accept it.
We'll say some point. Maybe it's not Sunday law, but we'll just say some way mark.
Yeah.
What will happen at that way mark?
They will.
Not be the next.
Yeah, they will be part of Babylon.
They will fall.
They will fall into Babylon.
Into Babylon. Give me a verse.
Revelation, not Revelation 14. Then it's Revelation. Revelation 18.
Verse.
Verse. Revelation 18, verse 2.
Revelation 18, verse 2.
Yeah.
Says what?
And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is becoming the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit.
Okay, that's fine then.
Yeah.
So you're saying that's that waymark, and you told me what that waymark was a minute ago. What was the waymark you said? Sunday law. So 18 verse 2 is when?
Sunday law.
According to what you just said, it's Sunday law.
Yeah, no, but it cannot be.
It cannot be?
Well,
so you made a mistake?
Yeah, but we say that it's on 9/11. So
what are you going to do now? All your logic just took you to the Sunday law.
Yeah.
And you're going to undo the logic? In the words of Brother Stephen, what do we do with what we just read in inspiration now that you got this logic that tells you something different?
Yeah.
Which is correct. Your logic Oh, that's SOP quote.
Yeah, I have to review my logic.
Okay, Revelation 18 verse 2, Brother Adelio. Give me the parallel verse in Daniel.
Which chapter of Daniel?
You tell me, anyone you want, I don't mind.
Parallel verse of Daniel. Nothing comes to mind.
Sister Emma? Revelation 18 verse 2, I want a parallel verse in Daniel. Anyone?
1141.
Sorry?
1141.
1141 they're saying on that side. Are you okay with 1141?
Yeah, I know it's about the Sunday law, but it doesn't really say Babylon is fallen or fallen.
Okay, so the question is, why did he go to 1141? Was he thinking Sunday law from Brother John Mark, or was he looking Babylon is fallen, is fallen? Tell me which one did you pick up for 1141? Did you say, oh, Sunday law, or did you pick up fallen is fallen? Just which one? When you took us to 1141, just to answer that one, was it Sunday law marker or fallen marker? Okay, he didn't pick up Sunday law. He picked up Babylon is fallen. He picked up that marker, which is the one that you said he didn't pick up. So he picked up the correct one. He's picking up Babylon is fallen.
Right.
He's not picking up Sunday law.
Okay.
So can you see where he sees Babylon is fallen in 11 verse 41?
Many countries shall be overthrown.
Overthrown, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah? So he's picked up overthrown. You can take out the word countries. So the overthrown is the fallen.
Right.
We're all okay with that? So what are you going to do with 18 verse 2 now? You're going to shift it out of verse 41, or you're going to put it somewhere else?
Somewhere else.
So they're not parallel passages now.
Yeah, but this is
Sorry?
it's a bigger event. It's a time period, a longer time period, not a point in time.
What is?
Daniel 11:41.
But it begins at a point in time.
Yeah.
He shall enter also.
Into the glorious land.
So that's a point in time.
Yeah.
This has things happen along after that, but it's a point in time. Sunday law, you agree with that?
Yeah.
When that happens, many are overthrown. Overthrown from where to where? I'm going to change the word overthrown to thrown out.
Yeah.
Thrown out from where?
From
Someone help him.
yeah. Please help.
From the church.
From the church, yeah.
You get thrown out of the church. You get thrown out of the church. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Into Babylon.
Into Babylon.
So that's 18 verse 2.
Yeah.
So 18 verse 2 must be the Sunday law.
The Sunday law.
Like you said right at the beginning of your logic.
Yeah.
Good?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so in the Millerite history, to fall into Babylon, you fail a specific test. It's the test on time. It's not the test on the Sabbath, and it's not the test on the state of the dead. So therefore you must know that for such a severe punishment, you must have committed a severe crime. So let's read the quote. This is 4SP. Page 235. This is Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 4. I'm going to read from the paragraph before as you're looking for it. The great sin charged against Babylon is, she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. This cup of intoxication, which she presents to the world, represents the false doctrines which she has accepted as a result of her lawful connection with the great ones of the earth. Friendship with the world corrupts her faith, and in her turn she exerts a corrupting influence upon the world by teaching doctrines which are opposed to the plainest statements of the Word of God. Hopefully we're there now. 235 paragraph 1. Are most of us there? The first word, Sister Ola. Prominent. What does prominent mean, Brother Richard?
Noticeable.
Noticeable. Brother Carl, what does prominent mean in that Olympics? Important first. They saw that on camera.
I just think about the little horn, it was stout and prominent.
It says prominent?
No, it says prominent hair, but the little horn was stout. It's prominent. It was.
Stout doesn't mean prominent. Just a second.
It does.
It does?
Yeah.
Stout means prominent.
Yeah. Research it.
Sorry?
Yeah, look up.
Okay, no, I'm asking you proof text there. I'm saying your proof text, it means prominent. That's what stout means. That's what I'm asking you.
Well, I'm just going by the English definition of that. So the word you're asking about prominent hair, and there's a doctrine that's prominent.
Okay, stout. That's what a stout means. Prominent.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah.
Okay. So first, prominent means the first. The most prominent thing is the most important thing. So prominent among these false doctrines is the temporal millennium. So if we were true Adventists, Protestants, we would know that out of the three major doctrines that the papacy holds on to and promulgates across the world, the one that's prominent, or the first one of importance, is not the state of the dead, and it's not Sunday sacredness. It's time. The Millerites figured that out, not consciously. They just stumbled across it, if you like. Who else has figured that out? Who else has figured it out? We have. Yeah. This movement has figured out that the prominent doctrine of the papacy, or not of papacy, of Babylon, is the subject of time, not Sunday, and not the state of the dead. So why have we, as a church, only focused upon the two? Sorry?
Because Ellen White says two great errors.
Because Ellen White said, and Brother Richard said?
It says in Revelation, isn't it? That you let Jezebel teach, something like that. Or can't remember exactly where it is.
So even though it's coded in the word inspiration in Spirit of Prophecy, what the prominent one is, Ellen White is not going to talk about it. So you think about the implications of that. The prominent issue she's not going to refer to. So the question is, why? Why will she not refer to the prominent one? Brother Stephen. Oh, who's Sister Natalie?
Because it was a test.
Sorry?
Was it because it was a test?
Okay, you're saying God wants to trip us up.
We want to see if we're faithful.
Okay. Brother Stephen. Microphone. I don't know the answer to this. We're all studying together, so there's no. I don't mean there's no wrong or right answers, but we're thinking through this together at the same time. So don't feel like I've pressurising you or something. I want us to walk through this logic. Hopefully, we can see the logic. So the question is, why does she never refer to time? Why only those two?
I'm thinking because of the scattering of the church, that there's a time period where the church has gone and
okay, so
like things have been sealed up.
So your answer is because we're in a scattering time, truth has been sealed up. So I'm going to rephrase that and say Ellen White doesn't know that there's three prominent ones. She only thinks that there's two. She doesn't know about the third one. If I can, that's what you're saying.
Well, she said that it is here. She said.
Okay, she says it, but it doesn't. But it's not registering, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. To her mind, maybe I don't know. It's.
So why do you say? But you say we're in a scattering. Why do you? Who's we? Including her?
Well, the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Including her?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to press the point then. In her thinking, time is no longer an issue. So is she right or wrong? She's making mistakes. Is she making mistakes?
Well, there was things revealed to Daniel that even he didn't understand.
Okay, so she doesn't understand.
Yes.
So perhaps my language is too strong when I say she's making a mistake. So she doesn't understand about time. So she says there's only two. She's wrong about that because she doesn't understand.
Well, she's saying that they are. She just points out. She takes them two from the. There is three, but she just highlights.
Why does she ignore the prominent one? That's what I'm asking.
God has inspired her just to.
That says that someone here said a test. God doesn't want us to know. He's mean. We're after 1844. I'm not saying your answers are wrong, but I'm pressing for us all to say, is that a reasonable response? If you think it's reasonable, that's fine. Because maybe it is. Sister Emma. I'm not saying that's not reasonable, but I'm looking for a reasonable answer of why Ellen White only highlights two. So we've had different ones. Ellen White doesn't know. Or God says, you're bad people, so I'm not going to tell you. So he and Ellen White are in a conference and he says, we know it's time, but let's not tell them. Because they're in a scattering. So why we only got the two?
The argument that we use in the movement is that for some of these things, is that she focuses on the end of the line, and the end of the line is the test for the world, or the big picture, and the world are going to be tested on Sunday sacredness and immortality of the soul, because those are the deceptions that Satan's going to use for the people in the world. So people will manifest from the dead, supposedly, and talk to them, and they'll be tested on the Sunday question. But I don't think that time is a test for the people in the world, so it's only an internal test, and that's why.
So time is not a test for them, only a test for us.
I don't know, that's just the logic. I'm just
okay, that's the logic that you've got.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that time is for us, Sunday is for them.
Yeah, and State of the Dead.
I'd say that I'm just big Sundays. Like Sunday for them, time for us. That's your argument.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got three arguments. God is just testing us because we're bad people. Ellen White doesn't know, or we've got one test, they've got a different test. Now we've got different tests. Sister Carol Lee or Brother Thomas, which one was it? Carry on while they're getting the mic.
So connected to that is the fact that the evidence is there in Scripture, because we have this quote saying prominent among these false doctrines. So it isn't God he didn't hide it from us. The evidence is all there that we need, and we're required to dig for it and see it. And so in that sense, he's not an unfair God doing that. That's what I wanted to add that in.
Okay. Sister Carol Lee?
I was thinking maybe, I don't know when she wrote this specific 4SP, what year?
1884.
Okay. I was only thinking, could it be that because people were reapplying time and all of those time issues she had to deal with in her age, why she didn't mention anything at that time, because she didn't want them to misapply her words, maybe? I think she did understand the time issue, so you got 4 options now.
Okay, so let me give you one suggestion, which is the suggestion that Brother Stephen gave us yesterday. Ellen White says, what's going to happen before 1888? Brother Stephen? Second Advent's going to come. It was okay. That's what it was. Only I knew he was going to. The second Advent's going to come before that. Okay. So, in her mind, the subject of time needs to. How would she relate to time?
No longer.
Time has been done and dusted. Let's move on. So that's why her focus is not on time. She says, the time issue is all done and dusted. Everyone's figured out the issue of time. Now we've got other tests to come, which is state of the dead or Sunday sacredness. So that's her context, if you like. Now, it depends what time period you're coming in. If you got to 63, what's already happened? Time. What is current?
In the movement or external?
Got 3 doctrines. What one's the current one?
Health.
No. What are the 3? Why are we saying health for? We've got time, state of the dead, Sabbath. So which one's the current one after 1844?
Sabbath, yeah.
No, time's been done according to her thinking. She says time no longer. Time's gone. It's the wrapping. The state of the dead comes in around 1850. Yes? It's not the Sabbath. The Sabbath issue is not coming up. They have no clear idea of what the Sabbath is, its relationship to end-time prophecy. She begins to get some clues, but she's not solid about it. So the current one, if you're going to argue the 2 things, is just those 2. One's already come, time is no longer, now it's the state of the dead. Are you okay with that? Because what we keep on doing is, we take a mature statement and we say, and I think, as Rema said, we take that and we backtrack it or back filter it into earlier histories, and you can't do that. You end up making mistakes. In the Millerite history, there's 46 years, it's not state of the dead, it's only time. This is one history, because the line does not end in 44, it ends in 63. So when you take the line further, then it's the issue of the state of the dead. If you're okay with that. Now, maybe you might think this is a stretch when we start thinking about the state of the dead. But the state of the dead is a big subject. We just say state of the dead as like it's one thing. But some people call it the immortality of the soul. My question to you is, what is a soul? What is a soul? Sorry? Us? A heart? A body? It's not just a body. A living body. A person. Okay, so my question is, are all people equal? Up to 1863, are all people equal? You take the sense, anything, I'm just asking you could say, no, you can give me the sense if you're going to say yes or no. Are all people equal? No.
No, some are dead. Some are, dead people are walking around, that's all I'm thinking. Because they're spiritually dead, so they're dead. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Why is 1863 such an important date?
That's when James White rejected. They made the chart, the church state.
We're talking about the state of the dead.
Civil War.
Was it the Union?
Okay, now I'm going to ask the question, are all people equal?
Not in every man's eyes, no.
No, not in 1863.
They're not all equal.
Black and white.
Some are different colours. Okay, are all people equal?
No.
Because?
Of colour.
And?
Race, I don't know.
Well,
Be one race.
Colour?
Position.
And? Gender. Are men and women equal?
No,
They're not equal. So when we start talking about the immortality of the soul, or whether or not you sleep, it's a big issue about what constitutes a human being. This is the doctrine that they're going to have to address and tackle in the history before the Sabbath becomes a major problem for them. First it's time, then it's soul. We'll go with the soul. Soul is whether you're the right colour or you're the right gender. They're the issues that people, that not just Christians, the world is facing. That is the test. And then later comes the test of the Sabbath, which is the 1888 history that, as you mentioned. Okay, so we're way over time. Hopefully we can remember where we've got to in our study. If we can think about it this way, how many doctrines have they got? Three. How many dispensations are going to be dealing with? Three. One of them is the 46 years. What doctrine? Time. The other one is the dispensation from 44 to 63. Subject is? The souls. Are all people equal? They're not. 63 onwards. It's going to be the Sabbath. So you can see in that dispensation we're dealing with different doctrines. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to give you praise and thanks for your goodness and mercy. We ask that you would be with us, to guide us and bless us. Help us to meditate upon these words so that they might become a living reality within us, and that they may impact us in such a way that we would be transformed by the renewing of our minds. In Jesus' name, amen.